I feel like Bitcoin has to hit like 100K at least.
Yeah.
Like otherwise people are going to be so pissed. Like it just has to happen. It has to manifest itself. And we're like basically there, right? We have to go up like 50% from here. I think ETH is one of those things where it's like it almost hits 10K, but it never does. Like we might top out like 8,500 or something. I can definitely see that.
All right, to kick it off, we got Taiki, the humble farmer himself, from the other Steady Lads podcast, to come on the show and talk about everything he thinks about the market. How's it going, Taiki?
I'm good. I have to record a lot of videos today, so I made a lot of coffee, and I just spilled a bunch of coffee here on the table. But other than that, it's a great start to the day. Thanks for having me on here.
Well, you are welcome. I love your background. I love your farmer setup. I'm looking for some more farmer videos. That was like, those videos like girls watch, or at least I know girls will watch them where like they like crush things, or like they're like those soothing videos. They're like almost ASMR. That's your farming videos for me. I just like watch those things. It's like Stardew Valley. Yeah.
It's like, why do I hold these DeFi coins? Okay, at least Taiki's watching, or Taiki's making videos.
Yeah.
It's a coping mechanism.
It is. It's good stuff, man. Can you maybe give us some background on like how you got started? How did you get started in crypto? What started your journey into the space?
I was pretty late to crypto. I think a lot of people got into the space in 2017. But I mostly just kind of ignored the space, and I really got into it in 2020. But the reason I got into it was because I graduated college in 2019, and I was working for a company called Boba Guys, which I'm sure you've been to, Jesse.
I love
you said
Boba
you like
Guys.
it, but yeah. But
wait, can you guess my favorite drink just by looking at me?
Strawberry matcha latte.
No, it was the horchata drink. The horchata.
Oh, okay. I mean, like looking at you, I don't know. I just assumed like strawberry matcha latte because like that's what everyone gets. But I was working there, like in headquarters, doing operations, and it was interesting because when COVID happened, or like February, right before it became really big, like all our Chinese tea suppliers said, "Oh, like we can't ship you tea anymore because everything is like blocked off." So that's when I knew it was like, oh, okay, like this is pretty troublesome. So around March, like I got laid off. Everyone got laid off, and I kind of had to, I guess, rethink my life. And I just went full time into poker, like online poker, because it's something that I was really into in college. I knew about Bitcoin because to deposit money into these poker sites, you had to use Bitcoin because the U.S. banking rails were blocked off. So I always thought Bitcoin was kind of like this, shady money. But anyways, played a bunch of poker. I met a bunch of crypto people because there's a lot of big overlap between poker and crypto. And, around Q3, Q4, there was DeFi summer, there was this crazy pumps everywhere. And I felt like, okay, like, I'm like an average poker player, right? Average like profitability, but I have to go full-time crypto because that's where the money is. I have no finance background, so I started making YouTube videos in case I wanted to apply to any of these crypto projects. So I'm like, okay, like at least I have like a video resume. And then naturally, one of my videos like just went crazy with the Polygon days. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing this now. And ever since then, I've just been messing around with content, experimenting here and there. My niche, I guess, is like DeFi and like farming, as you can see by like the farmer hat right there. But yeah, like that's kind of how I got into crypto. I guess COVID really changed my life. At the time, it felt really bad, but like looking back, it probably was like the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah, I love that story because it's really similar to mine, where I was doing wedding videos before this, like high-end weddings in the Bay Area, and then COVID changed my life too in a negative way at the time. It felt like, but it ended up being one of the best things that's ever happened to me. So
I'm kind of curious. Like I know, I mean, maybe your audience knows this, but I know you really got big on TikTok or just socials via like this $0 to $1 million challenge. Can you like just tell me about that? I guess the entire process,
the entire 0 to 1 million challenge,
or like just compressed version maybe. But
okay, yeah. So I started out. I started out just filming videos of myself. What I was learning through books had nothing to do with crypto. I didn't really know what to do, like to do after wedding videos. I was kind of thinking I was going to do like video marketing. So I was recording videos of myself, like teaching them marketing things that I was learning on TikTok. I had a friend that kind of like gotten some traction. He got to 5,000 followers, which I thought was like so big at the time. And so I was like, man, maybe I could get to like 500, and that'd be crazy. It'd change my life. I didn't know. But yeah, so I started recording videos, started getting some traction. Still wasn't making any money. I have 5 kids. My wife's a stay-at-home mom, and was unemployment at the time because things had gotten so bad. I went from making like a lot of money, like over 6 figures annually, to 0 within 2 weeks. And it was like the biggest, I don't know, shift. I was really depressed, and it was really bad for a little bit. But anyway, so I got out of it. I was determined to build something. I didn't know how I was going to succeed. I figured reading books would like help me have an idea, because it's kind of hard. It actually is really hard when you're like trying to figure out what to do. You're like, what do I do? Like, no, where's my direction? I'm used to school. Somebody tell me what to do. And there's no one that would tell me what to do, And so I had to figure that out for myself. And I got to a point where I came up with this idea of like the 1 to 1 million challenge, where I was like, I'm going to try to make $1 million in a year. I know it's kind of stupid, but it kind of felt like Mr. Beast-ish, where it's like this crazy challenge that's impossible to achieve, but it'd kind of be fun to watch and see how far I make it. And so I started doing like all kinds of side hustles. My first week, I was determined to make $1,000 in a week. I cold called like 70 people a day from my Chamber of Commerce website on the city I lived in. And I was just trying to sell them like vaguely marketing something. Like I was like, I'll design a website for you. I'll make a video for you. I'll do some photography. I'll do anything. Just give me some money. And 70 people a day, 6 days in, not one person. I'm the worst at cold calling. I'm like really, really bad at it. And on this, like basically the last day, somebody cold called me. And just having gone through like how horrifying cold calling is, I knew this person would not hang up on me, because when you get somebody who doesn't hang up on you, it's like, a breath of fresh air. So they were from a company called Clearbank, and they were trying to convince me to take out a loan because they thought I still had my wedding business. And I had gotten $200 so far from like, I got my friend Lucas to like let me take pictures of him and turn them into gifts for like his client list or whatever. So I needed $800, and this guy on the phone, I like told him my whole story, and I was like, "Hey, listen, this is what I'm trying to do. Will you just give me $800?" And the guy's like, "What?" And I was like, "Can you just give me $800, and now I can hit my goal?" And he's like, "For what?" And I was like, "For nothing. I absolutely not. I will give you nothing. I'm sure I'll tell this story. Like if I succeed and I get famous or something, I'll tell your story. I'll tell the story of this happening. And I'll say the words, Clearbank was the company." And he's like, "I guess that's something." And he's like, "Yeah, you know what? I'm going to see if I can make this happen." So he like calls his CEO up, gets him on the phone. The guy's like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And this guy ends up like sending me money that day from his own account. PayPal's me $800. And that's how I got my first 1,000. From there, I like sold my PlayStation and a bunch of stuff in my garage. I did like flipping things on Facebook Marketplace. I did Google ads, Facebook ads, Pinterest ads. I manufactured a product in China, tried to sell that. It didn't really work out. I pretty much did like anything that was popular on TikTok that people said made money. I did that. And until I got to about $80,000, and I was like, there's no way I'm making it to $1 million. This is 6 months in. And it was so much work. And I was like, there's no way I'm making it to $1 million doing this. And so I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I read Richest Man in Babylon. And those 2 books changed my life. I was like, oh my gosh, I got to be putting my money to work. And that's how I got started investing. I was very familiar with crypto. I had been in 2017. I had made tons of money, and I had lost every dime.
That's everyone's cycle, right? It's just like, whoa, I'm so good. I'm bad.
Exactly, yeah. I made like multiple houses worth of money. And that would have changed my life. And I round tripped that all the way back down. And so I was like, man, I know you can make a lot of money in crypto. I like paid attention throughout the bear market. And so that's how I got back involved in that space. And then, made it to 147,000 my first year. Didn't make it to $1 million, but I did make it to $1 million later. So that was my story.
Yeah. We both have similar stories of we had a stable job, then it went to 0. And then we're like, well, I guess we have to, bet on ourselves and try something new. And in hindsight, it was like, I wouldn't change it any other way,
Yeah, same. Even though it's
part of like who we are now.
Well, I was going to ask, you mentioned you're in poker. It's funny you mentioned that because I talk about this all the time. Crypto is a lot like poker in the sense that like you have incomplete information and you're having to make essentially a guess at what to do with that incomplete information. And so you might like, I kind of think of like when I do research on a project, it's like a starting hand. And like, maybe it's like, I have double aces, man. This is like, I did my research. This is a killer project, but that doesn't mean like necessarily I'm going to win on that project, even though it's like the best starting hand possible. Like tons of things can happen over the course of, what happens next where, it just doesn't work out. And like, I think that's a hard thing for most people in crypto, newer investors, especially, to understand, is that even with the best starting hand, you can still lose. And sometimes a lousy starting hand you can win with. And really it's about like risk management and assessing the probability and making sure you're allocating to each position well. And that's kind of how you win in crypto. Would you agree with that? Or what's your view on how to play crypto well?
I think poker teaches you multiple things. It's this idea of continuously making plus EV decisions, like positive expected value. Because in the short term, there's a bunch of noise. Like you can play perfectly, but like lose a bunch. But over a million hands, if you play perfectly, then you're going to make money. So the worst thing that could happen to you is if you lost all your money, then you can't bet anymore. So you can't really push your edge. So this idea of survival, and also like my net worth has swung my entire life because I would just like make a bunch of money from poker, lose a bunch of money from poker. So if the market nukes, it's like I don't really care, right? It's like I've felt like I no longer feel pain. I also no longer feel like euphoria to the upside, unless we're like actually pumping like 30% candles every single day or something. Then I'm like euphoric. But otherwise, I'm just like, yeah. I mean, it's just like numbers on the screen. It's like I'm not going to sell my crypto anyways. It's like it doesn't really matter, right? So I guess emotionally detaching myself from the money and just focusing more on the process, because the process is what makes you money, not really like hitting home run trades. Or like everyone wants to like make one trade that like makes them millionaires or something, but that's not really likely. It's more likely that you just grind for like a few years, and then eventually just the culmination of all your knowledge ends up resulting in a good play. So just having this grinder mentality is something I learned from poker, and this endless perseverance and never ending belief in yourself, because it's hard. Like poker is hard, markets are hard. So in order for us to keep going, like we have to believe in ourselves, right? And of course, I think we all deal with like mental health issues and self-confidence issues and imposter syndrome. But I just try not to burn out and just keep going. Yeah, just keep going. Basically, never die podcast.
Never die. The mental game in crypto is insane. Like if you are not mentally very, very, very mentally fit, you're going to really struggle, because it is so much emotional, like ups and downs, and it's like it wrecks most people. Even me, like sometimes I'm like, man, I am feeling stressed.
You never want to go on tilt, right? Because it's like maybe you didn't sell, maybe you like sold and it pumped or whatever, and it's like each decision is independent from your future decisions. Like just because you messed up this one trade doesn't mean that you have to mess up the next trade. But if you're not in like the sharpest state of mind, and if like one mess up influences your future decisions, then it's over for you, right? Technically. So yeah, I mean, lots of mental resilience things I learned from poker. Like I used to meditate every day. I no longer do it anymore. For some reason, like crypto is less stressful than poker for me. Even though like this like monetary swings are even more like than I experienced in poker. But I think maybe it's a sign of me personally maturing, and like not too focused on like short-term fluctuations. Like I try to play long-term games with like long-term people, and like I just try to have like a long-term mindset. So it's like that kind of helps me deal with the struggles, because I'd be lying if I said I don't like struggle like financially or mentally. I think people try to hide it because it's like crypto's mostly men, right? And like men, it's like this alpha mentality of like, I'm so good, I'm so, but I think it's good to like just, admit that we're all human and we deal with stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think you're right on when you said like it's about setting the right, having the right strategy or maybe the right decision engine with what you're doing, right? Like if you make the right decisions over a long enough period of time, you're going to win. Where if you're going off of just like what's working or what's failing, you'll get really confused and kind of tied in knots. And the example I'd give would be like, I know people that have made a ton of money in meme coins. Like they'll stick their life savings into a meme coin and they'll actually win. And they're like, wow. And so they like learn in their head that like this is a smart decision. In their brain, they think this. And then they repeat that decision over and over again. until they lose everything, because it's actually a poor decision. And they're doing what's in poker called resulting, where they're taking the outcome and assuming that shows that was a good decision. And in the same way, you might make a really good decision where you're like, hey, I'm going to put a bunch of money in this cash flowing asset called Maker. This sounds like a good idea. And then it just does nothing. And you're like, wow, was that a poor decision because of the outcome? When really that was a smart decision, and you can't really base it off that outcome. So you got to have that right core decision matrix if you want to succeed in the long run in crypto, poker, or whatever.
Yeah. The thing is, like, we don't really know what the correct decision is, right? It's like you mentioned Maker and meme coins. It's like maybe we're coming to this with this preconceived notion that buying Maker is good, but buying meme coins bad. But like maybe in reality, I mean, maybe buying Maker bad, buying meme coin good. Like we don't actually know, because crypto is like, we don't know how to value these things. It's only hindsight, right? It's like 3 months later, it's like, oh yeah, like now we know the answer. It was so obvious, but in the moment, we don't actually know. So I think having humility, like I try to have humility. We're recording this like July 19th. Like right now, like I fully admit that I have zero edge in this market. Like I'm not even going to attempt like trading stuff or like buying new narratives, because I just don't think I can. So I'm just trying to be more defensive, and I'm like mostly just in ETH, like just airdrop farming here and there, putting on my farmer hat back there. And, my airdrops have been horrible recently, but, it's like whatever, it's okay. It's okay. Like at least I'm generating some yield, whether it be like 1% or 2%, it's like whatever, it's still paying something. So just waiting for, I guess, a brain dead opportunity. It's like at some point, you stick around long enough, there's going to be something so obvious, and then I can like just bet on that. Right now, I don't really see that. So I'm just trying to survive and not die.
What is never die? What's your view on the current state of the market then? So if you're in defensive mode, what's your like overall view in the current state of the market? Are you thinking, that the market's going to do well from here? Are you more like agnostic, like actually there's no way of knowing what the market's going to do from here, I see no opportunity, so I'm just sitting on the sidelines? Like, what's your overall view? I
mean, when I say defensive, I'm like fully allocated basically, and I'm like, but like my definition of defensive is like being all in ETH technically, essentially being all in ETH, like 90% ETH essentially. I am bullish. Like I don't really think that there's any strong reasons to be bearish. Like I don't really think we're near the top. I don't really know what's going to happen in the next week or a month, but the ETH ETF is going to be next week. I don't really see how that can be bearish over the long term. Trader, if you're trading, then yeah, like maybe there's going to be like volatility, but my definition of defensive is just like not buying or not trying to time alts, like not trying to, make a bet that I'm smarter than the market, because essentially when you're buying an altcoin, you're making a bet that it's going to go up, right? So you're saying that the current market price is wrong. The market is wrong. I'm going to buy. It's going to pump. I don't have enough confidence in myself right now to like make those decisions. Like, like how do I know the market is wrong? Like maybe the market is right, or maybe the market is wrong. It's going to go lower. I have no idea. I think a lot of people, they see the ETH ETF, they want to buy an alt that like is like ETH beta. But for me, it's like, okay, it's the ETH ETF. I'll just buy ETH, and I'll restake with EtherFi. I'll bridge to Scroll, and maybe I can generate 20% yield on ETH, 30% yield on ETH, and I'm okay with that. And and then maybe a month or two from now, there's going to be something like super obvious, and I can like just bet bigger on that. That's kind of what I mean by defensive. I'm just like naturally super risk on and like Omega bullish crypto. But yeah, I'm just like 90% ETH essentially.
One thing I've noticed about the crypto markets that's really interesting is it seems like the people that have the most confidence are often the most wrong in the long run. And the most almost delusional, right? Like they are like so focused in on like what they believe is for sure going to happen, that they're not malleable and open to like adapting to how the market goes. Where people that constantly doubt themselves and actually sound the least confident, and therefore I think have the people tend to have less conviction in their opinion, end up being often the most right. It's because they're so malleable and open, and a lot more like loose, right? It's a lot more like, hey, I'm paying attention to everything that's happening, and I'm waiting for an opportunity. I'm being patient. I'm being humble. I'm assessing the ongoing state of the market versus somebody who's closed-minded and it's like can only see one thing, and because of that they miss the bigger picture. Would you agree with that?
I guess to make a lot of money in the market, you have to be contrarian and right. So everyone wants to be contrarian and right. And, I guess what you were talking about earlier, the people that are more defensive or just more, I guess, humble or have humility, like they don't die, right? They're like just we're alive, we're cockroaches. So you're going to see more of us around because the survivorship bias, like we've stuck around. There's going to be a few subsection of, Twitter or like whatever, right? Social media where they're like just banging the drum on whatever narrative, like meme coin AI or like whatever, right? And like some of them are right and they look like geniuses. And in fact, like I think Ansem is like super smart, he's like very, very smart guy. But then there's like a bunch of like wannabe Ansems, right? That try to like, follow in his footsteps. But you can't really repeat, like that story. So yeah, I mean, I still fall from this trap. I call myself like the mid curve, right? I'm just like trying to poke fun at myself. Because like, 68% of the population is mid curve, right? So I'm like, okay, like we're all mid curves here. Sorry, I forget what I was trying to say. But yeah, sometimes, in the past I've had moments where I'm like, oh, I'm so right on this. I bet big. I put like a third of my portfolio into like some alt and it just like goes down so much and like, oh my God, like I'm so stupid. And then, over time, the people that's still around, like we all learn from our past lessons of just risk management. That like maybe the people that are still like tweeting or making videos, we're still like, okay, like, we still have like we still have like PTSD from like the bear market. So it's kind of hard to let go. And only when prices pump to absurd levels can we let go of that PTSD and like just like really fling around our money on chain and like it's like, like random coins or whatever. Sorry if I'm not sure if I can swear, like say stuff, but
you can swear.
Okay. Yeah. Like coins. Yeah. I don't know. Obviously the most amount of money in crypto comes from like alts, and we all want Altseason. But it's like, we have no idea when it's gonna happen, right? It can happen next week or next year, like next month or even like next year. Like obviously, like
would you vaguely say that? In my mind, I would say maybe we don't know the date it'll happen, but you can definitely expect, in my mind, when the price of ETH goes up, there's going to be a wealth effect that bleeds down from ETH into the alts. Like it typically always, once ETH goes up, everyone looks for ETH beta, and they're like, okay, ETH's really high. I missed out on that opportunity. What opportunities are next? Maybe they have a lot of capital in ETH now at this point, and that tends to be when we see Altseason happen.
I 100% agree because, of course, I think this cycle has mostly been led by Bitcoin
and Solana,
and I guess like Solana Eco. But like if you think about, and you can argue that maybe Solana was like just so undervalued that it's just like repriced to like a more fair level, and we didn't really see like a crazy alt season with like from Bitcoin pumping because
we saw Bitcoin invent its own alt season like out of nowhere. It's like boom, we have alts now in Bitcoin. We're pumping these.
I guess so. But the point is, if you think about like the psychology of most Bitcoin holders, they're kind of like this digital gold types. But the majority of degens own ETH, right? Like we want ETH on chain pumps, right? Like the degens own ETH. So if ETH just pumps like 2x in the next 6 months, then like obviously like all these degens have like 2x more money. Then we're gonna punt on stuff. There's gonna be like new random Ponzi games that it's gonna go crazy. So I think we're all kind of in this waiting room of just waiting for ETH to like break 5K, and then it's gonna be a party. Hopefully the ETF takes us there, right? And I think it will. Yeah. But
you make a good point with the waiting room because it makes me think like. There's been a lot of times where it feels like, especially when you hold ETH, you don't want to sell because you don't want to miss on the pump that you feel in your gut is for sure going to come. And so it's like it's hard to allocate into alts because you feel like you're going to miss out on something with ETH because you like in your gut, you're like, something is coming. And it feels like, once that thing happens, whatever that catalyst event is, people feel a lot more free to be like, okay, I'm going to allocate from my ETH into alts. And we've also had airdrops and stuff, I think, that's really kept ETH capital locked up where it's like, I could also earn X amount on this Swell airdrop or EtherFi airdrop or whatever.
Yeah, it's like once ETH breaks 5K, I think it's going to be like there's parties everywhere. Yeah. And also, it's like if I can own ETH and the airdrop farm and get paid like 20-30% or something on average, then it's a lot harder for me to like buy alts that doesn't do anything. So there's like some opportunity cost. But I think the expected returns of airdrops have been coming down recently because all these tokens are like just dumping. So maybe there's now less of an opportunity cost. And now I'm like actually like creating or trying to create like a shopping list of like things I want to buy or like look into, research into.
I want to hear your shopping list. What's in your shopping list right now?
It's harder because I'm like a DeFi guy at heart. So I want to bet on DeFi stuff. It's like things like Aave. Like Aave's trading like 1.5 bill. I feel like that's so like Aave might be one of those things where like looking 5 years from now, it's like, wow, like I could have bought Aave at like $100. It was so obvious, right? I feel like it's going to be one of those, but obviously timing it is really hard. So like just general DeFi dinosaurs like Maker, Aave, Uniswap, Lido, Chainlink, stuff like that. I think we'll just, I feel like you can just buy a basket and like go into a coma, and maybe if the regulatory regime is more favorable towards like crypto regulation becomes more favorable, then maybe Uniswap can turn on the fee switch, and then just DeFi is like just pumps or something. Okay, so like DeFi, I guess, is like one sector I'm bullish on. Maybe like I'm still like considering that. I think SocialFi is interesting too. I think one thing with this cycle is that people complain about the lack of innovation, and because there's a lack of innovation, people just pump meme coins because it's like like it, like all this infra is worthless. Let's just like buy meme coins. So I think for crypto, for on-chain to come back again in like, bigger levels than last cycle, we need like new games, right? It's like, we can't really have new games on DeFi or in NFTs because it's mostly been solved. But like SocialFi, we had Friendtech do okay. Of course, the token is like down 90% or something, whatever, but people got excited about it, right? So like trying to find things that people get excited over. I think Friendtech maybe was like a test pump of SocialFi, and then like the next one that comes out could be big. So looking into like Lens Network, Stani, right, the founder of Aave, I think he kind of left Aave to focus on SocialFi, and I think they're creating like a new chain on the ZK stack or something for Lens. I don't really know. Like I was like minting random profiles last night on Lens. I had to pay $10 to create a profile, which kind of sucks, but I'm like, okay, I guess maybe I could get an airdrop.
If I told you there was a token that was co-founded by Brian Armstrong sitting at 15 million market cap, would you believe me that exists?
Is it like research coin or something?
Yeah, it's research coin.
Oh, really? Okay, like I was talking to someone and I'm like, yo, Brian Armstrong is investing into Amplifor. That could be bullish. And then someone was like, well, he also invested in research coin and it's like down like 99%. I'm like, okay.
The liquidity is super low. Yeah. It's like 15 million market cap and the liquidity is like 500K.
Yeah.
So it pumped really hard and then it dumped really hard, but it's just super low liquidity.
Yeah. I think, what was it? It's trying to like crowdfund research, right? Like scientific research.
It's DeSci. So,
decentralized science. That could be good. That could be bullish. Like, honestly.
Have you looked into DeSci? It's actually really, really cool.
Not really. I know there's like HairDAO. It's like a DAO that like helps like bald people or something.
It feels like a lot of the DeSci projects are kind of like 2017 crypto projects. Like we had a ton of like crypto projects in 2017 that never did very much. But I think on a base level, DeSci solves a couple things. Funding, right now in science, like funding comes from the government or like corporations. So there's a lot of like science that doesn't get funded because it's not maybe interesting to the corporations or the government. Two, there's like a lot of bureaucracy around science where it is it's not like you would imagine science would be like, hey, if you're really good at solving problems, this scientific problem or whatever, like you should be like leading that field. But really it's like, hey, you got to put in your chops first. You got to publish research first. You got to do this. And then once we accept you into our club, then we'll give you funding to do these things. And so it's kind of breaking, they call it a publish or perish mindset, and it's kind of breaking traditional science right now. And so there's this movement towards open science. Kind of like, imagine if the government dictated what software could be made or not made and how slow progress would happen. that's kind of in a weird way how science sort of is, not completely, but in some ways that's like there's like these weird friction points that slow it down. And open science wants to like make it a lot more frictionless. And I think Brian Armstrong, being a billionaire that has everything he wants, probably like most billionaires now wants to live forever. And so he's going to pour his fortune into whatever can get him there. And I think that open science is the idea of like, well, just like capitalism, if we reduce the friction points, we'll get a lot more innovation a lot quicker. And that's going to be bullish for actually solving some of these problems. And so Research Coin is about that. It's about funding science and creating open science frameworks to enable that.
I totally see that. It's just that like I just don't see this pumping, you know? I mean, I guess it pumped already, so I guess it could pump.
Think about during a bull run. We have a full-fledged bull run. You don't think that every influencer and their mom is going to, like, think about how easy that story spreads. Like, oh yeah, by the way, this is co-founded by the founder of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong. He's a billionaire. He co-founded this Research Coin. So, you know, he's going to pump it, or they're going to list it on Coinbase, or, you know, whatever X reason. I think for that reason, it's just really spreadable. It's like very viral if you actually just like say it out.
No, yeah, I'm just seeing this. I mean, it's dumped a lot, but I mean, it's still like, you know, pumped a lot from like the starting price. It's pretty impressive. And it has actually, I'm on their website. It's actually funded some stuff.
The way I think of DeSci is almost like, I imagine it'll evolve into a way to, like, just the way you do in crypto, place bets on ideas and then later down the line profit from the success of that idea, just like a VC would, but maybe more open and accessible. So you're like, oh, you're inventing a new way to cure cancer or something. I don't know. And then if that ends up being like successful and you invested early, well, then maybe you like are able to profit later down the line. It's not there yet. We have a lot of regulation, but I think in general, crypto will turn into a giant VC space in a lot of ways, where we'll have like startups to fund. They'll have nothing to do with on-chain, but it's just a more efficient way to raise capital like globally.
Yeah, I agree. One thing I'm also trying to work on is like creating an on-chain syndicate. So it's like people hate VCs, right? Like retail hates VCs. It's like, oh my God, they're dumping on us. And like most VC, some VCs are value add, right? They're like good people. They're super smart. But others are like just value extractive. They just dump. So I want to help like this movement to put these B and C tier VCs out of business and try to encourage more founders to raise from the community, right? So instead of raising $1 million from like this random VC, just raise $1 million from like 2,000 people, you know? Like that's probably better. Like that's probably better for the app than like raising from like a bunch of boomers, right? So I'm also trying to work on setting up the infra for that. Yeah, and I'm also excited for like consumer apps. I'm like very, very bullish consumer apps. I think right now like the narrative is meme coins and like infrastructure, but I think there's enough infrastructure. So like for crypto to go mainstream, we need apps, right? So like I might as well try to like look for consumer apps that could do well.
What kind of consumer apps do you think will do well?
Like you're familiar with like DePIN, right? Like I'm pretty bullish DePIN, but it's like using tokens to encourage human behavior, like in the real world. I think that's very powerful. So I'm pretty bullish consumer DePIN, where I guess, for example, like there's an app called Blackbird, which is like a loyalty app with restaurants. Traditionally, like Web2 loyalty apps, they have to like, you know, give away value, like, oh, here's like $10 sign up bonus or whatever, which is like very expensive. But with crypto, you can just give away tokens, like fake money, right? Fake tokens. And then you can like just expand your network effects that way. So, you know, using crypto tokens to incentivize real world human behavior, like making people like pay at a restaurant or like go to like a particular neighborhood. I think that's very powerful. So there's like Blackbird. I also invested in a company called Apollo, which is like a party to earn app, kind of.
Party to earn?
Yeah. It's like they're like they partner with like nightclubs, and they also implemented like stablecoin payments. So they're like trying to undercut like other payment processors. It kind of sounds like degenerate, but I mean, I guess it kind of is. But you know, I'm just trying to be more forward looking. It's like I'm trying to invest. Like if crypto becomes mainstream, like what kind of world does that look like? So I'm kind of trying to invest for like a future that I want to see.
How high do you think we're going to go this cycle? Like if you were to just guess off the top of your head, like where would you say we end this cycle at?
I feel like Bitcoin has to hit like 100K at least.
Yeah.
Like otherwise people are going to be so pissed. Like it just has to happen. It has to manifest itself. And we're like basically there, right? We have to go up like 50% from here. I think ETH is one of those things where it's like it almost hits 10K, but it never does. Like we might top at like 8,500 or something. I can definitely see that. And then everyone's like super pissed. Because last cycle, people were calling for ETH 10K, right? And also, I guess also Bitcoin to 100K. It never happened. This cycle, I can see Bitcoin hit 100K and then ETH hit like 8,600 and then just like top that way. But like, honestly, like I don't really care for these price predictions because I kind of just have to be living in the moment and like, look for signals to stay in or get out.
That's true, because if you get too glued to a certain price, that could actually be a pitfall.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to be more humble this cycle. So just take profits on the way up, like not have this ego that I can time the top. I'm just like, okay, like I made a decent amount of money. It's like time to farm like stablecoin pools or LP pools and just like chill. That's kind of like the mindset that I want to have. Like right now, I'm like basically all in. Like I said defensive, but like I'm like still all in. My defensive is like just denominating in ETH. But, maybe next year, as we go higher, hopefully, we'll just like de-risk into like farms, get paid 30%.
All right. What are the odds? What are the odds that Trump wins the election and then as a strategic reserve asset, he starts the U.S. government buying Bitcoin? Just like scale one, percentage-wise, 1 to 100%.
I think Polymarket has Trump at 70%, right?
Yep.
So there's a 70% chance that Trump wins the election, and then that's like the first conditional probability, right? And then what are the odds that Trump actually like does this thing? I heard like 10 to 1 odds that they actually buy Bitcoin. So maybe it's like slightly below 10% that this actually happens, that the U.S. government is buying Bitcoin. But that's still super bullish, right? I mean, there's like let's say a 10% chance that they pump our bags. So you kind of have to buy Bitcoin. The market has to price that in to some extent. There's like a 10% chance that they pump it to like $500,000 or something. Like it's pretty bullish,
Yeah.
Pretty bullish.
I'd put it higher. I'd probably put it at, I'd go all the way up to 40%. I'd say there's a 40% chance that we see this. Just looking at like, not right now, but look at the domino effect of the way things go. You have JD Vance as a vice president. He's definitely into crypto, like much more so than like 99% of politicians. I think he owns like Bored Ape Kennel Club NFTs.
Does he really?
And he has a big AVAX back. Like he's like actually into crypto in a way that most politicians don't even comprehend. And then you look at BlackRock and Wall Street having Bitcoin ETFs, ETH ETFs, and you can see some pressure. Like they would love if the U.S. government was buying Bitcoin as a strategic reserve, and you can almost like bet that they would sell that, they would push that narrative on them. So you have those two things, and Trump speaking at Bitcoin 2024, I feel like he's actually getting orange pilled. I feel like at the start it was just like voter base. I feel like most people though, the more you talk about something, the more you say something, the more you start to believe almost your own words. And I think in that same kind of vein, I could see this getting a little bit out of control. And, the U.S. government buying like a strategic reserve of Bitcoin to hold as backing against the U.S. dollar in the same way a government might hold gold in backing against their currency.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I think there's like a very high chance that governments will buy Bitcoin at some point. It's just that it's hard to imagine like in the next year or so. I'll be very pleasantly surprised, like if it happens, then cool. Like I didn't know he owned Bored Ape Kennel Club and AVAX. Maybe that's bullish AVAX. Maybe AVAX is like the.
Granted, I did read that on Twitter posts, and I never like went and like confirmed it myself. But I have seen quite a bit about him. Like he has over $250,000 in Bitcoin. I've seen some talks where he's talked about crypto, and he has like a very decent in-depth understanding of it, where you can tell he's not like a boomer trying to explain it. Like he actually understands it on a decently fundamental level. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like we might be set up for like one of the biggest and best rallies in crypto in 2025 that we've ever seen. because it's like everything's coming together perfect. Like I couldn't create a better wish list of like things to happen than what's happening. All we need is a killer breakout app, and then like my bucket list of like how I could have, my fantasy list of what could happen in crypto is pretty much achieved in 2025.
I see the vision. I see the vision. Yeah, I mean, I don't really think there's a reason to be bearish crypto unless you're like trying to trade this thing. It's like,
I can think of a couple reasons to be bearish. Okay, China invades Taiwan. So like a big black swan event like that, war. And then like some sort of major recession in the US. But then we get rate cuts. So maybe it's like a short-term bearish, but then long-term bullish, because as soon as we got the recession, we got rate cuts. And then we have all that momentum to run up. So I always think of like those crashes, like the COVID crashes, like a spring, right? Again, it like just pushes down momentum, and then we ride back up even harder. And really, I can't, besides if China invades Taiwan, I would be bearish. But potentially bearish. But outside of that, man, it's like the most bullish setup of all time.
Yeah. I mean, but like China invading Taiwan is not really a black swan, right? Because you know it could happen. It's like a black swan is like, we had no idea that could happen, you know?
Oh, yeah. I guess that's true. It's like it's like a gray swan.
But like, I think, you know, in crypto, it's like, you shouldn't sell for like, because there could be a black swan. It's like something to be aware of. And then like once you get to whatever your financial goals, it's like, okay, I think we can go higher, but like, you know, let's be responsible here and try to, you know, I think that's like the best approach.
It's like when you're walking down the sidewalk, you could get, you know, hit by a car or something. That's always possible.
But I'm still going to walk on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to look both ways, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to, it's kind of like that. Yeah.
What do you think about the 4-year cycle? Do you think it's broken? Do you think like people figured it out and it's just done with? Or do you think people figured it out and they think it's broken, so therefore it's just going to repeat? Which camp are you in?
I hope it's broken. I hope it's a super cycle, right? I hope the majors trade like stocks and we just go up slowly, you know, and then, because I mean, I love the boom and bust cycles, right? It's like, I love the parabolic pumps, but if we get parabolic pumps, that also means that we have to go down pretty aggressively. It's like, I kind of want like a steady growth phase of crypto. I think we're kind of getting there. But I guess we have subsections of markets. Maybe the majors are like steady up and to the right, but maybe like meme coins are like just, you know, like crazy, and then some alts are crazy, and then.
How many meme coins do you own?
I own 2 meme coins.
2 meme coins. Can you share those 2?
well, I don't know, Jesse. I don't know, Jesse. One is the one that you own. But like, so one is the one that you own, that, you know, that you convinced me on. But, you know, I won't say the ticker. And then the other is actual vaporware. I want to sell this. I'm like actually waiting for. I can't mention this either because it's like it's a micro cap, but it's like I desperately want to sell this, but like there's not enough liquidity and I need this to go higher so I can sell. So I'm kind of like trapped. It's so illiquid.
Dude, I think we're gonna see a meme coin super cycle. So I don't know if I told you my theory about Solana, but my theory with Solana was that like Solana popped off. Well, it crashed because of FTX. That's that spring I'm talking about, where like it goes so low that it springs back up higher. It used that spring to like propel to, you know, where it's at right now, which is this huge run up, which made it seem like, oh wow, Solana's doing so amazing. And because that wealth effect, everyone went on Solana to be like, cool, let's bet on the alts. And they're like, where are the alts? There's no alts on Solana because there pretty much isn't any. And at least at that time there wasn't. Now we're getting some more development. And so people just went straight to meme coins. And I think it's more of a preview of what's to come, of like, this is what's going to happen later in this cycle. We just got to see it early because Solana popped off. And I think later in this cycle, like meme coins are going to be like sort of like the NFTs in a way of this cycle, where like retail just loves meme coins. They just go nuts on meme coins. So
I'm not good at memes, but like people love memes. So who am I to say that meme coins are bad? It's like people want them, so they should trade them. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to, you know, it's like one thing to be like bad with something, or I think I'm like not great at meme coins, but it's like I understand that, but I'm here to learn. So that's why I'm like around and like finding out. is I'm still like, I'm still like 100 IQ, I'm just kind of stuck in the mid curve, but hopefully that, hopefully my meme coins go to the moon.
Meme coins are gamed in a lot of ways similar to like how airdrops Sybil farmers work. So there's a lot of like insider groups. There's a lot of like influencer pump and dumps in the meme coin space.
The cabals.
Yeah. It's actually depressing. So I like struggle to get into meme coins, and I like where all the hype is. That's usually where like the machine's working, right? All those people are working. That's where I'm more bullish on like meme coins like outside of like Solana right now, even though those ones do well. But it just feels like it's like a slaughterhouse. Like people go there to have their money taken away from them by like these like cabals on Telegram who are running these weird, almost like farming operations on people.
Yeah, like both my meme coins are on like L2s, like ETH eco that are kind of boomer ecos.
Yeah,
but like everyone I talk to is like, yo, you have to ape on Solana. And that's probably true because that's where all the money is, right? Like everyone on Solana is trying to gamble. So like that's where the casino is. It's like on ETH L2 is like no one's here to gamble. So there's like less speculative premium. But yeah, but you kind of have to bet on the future. It's like, okay, like it's dead right now, but if it comes back, then, like maybe these things go up or something.
Yeah, I think that's a huge mistake most people make is they look at right now too much and they look one move ahead. Instead of looking like 4 moves ahead, which is where a lot of the alpha is, which is like, yeah, Solana's doing great right now. It probably will do great later in the cycle, but are there other things that might pop off later in the cycle, like Base, right? I think that was the one move ahead where people are like, well, after Solana, probably be Base. But if you look a couple moves ahead, there's going to be other chains that pop off, and there's going to be like every chain's going to have their little mascot, and so finding those mascots early, I think, can be beneficial on the right chains. That's my thinking. I did have a question for you. Do you think NFTs are dead, or do you think NFTs are going to come back this cycle? And when I say NFTs, I mean PFP NFTs. I know in general NFTs are going to stick around for a lot of variety of use cases, especially in gaming. But for like PFP NFTs, do you think that's over and done with, or do you think we see a resurgence this cycle?
I think once ETH breaks 5K, it'll come back. It's like we need ETH people to be like hilariously rich again for these tokens to come back. So I think NFTs it's like, first like we're in the altcoin waiting room, and then after that will be the NFT waiting room. So I think that's kind of generally my thoughts. It's like certain NFTs have done well, like Pudgy Penguins have done really well.
Mad Lads.
But like Solana has done well. There's like the Celestine Slot Society on Celestia that's done well. But it's like there's like one collection for each ecosystem that is like good. It's like apes have done horribly. I mean, I think they'll come back, but like I have no like visibility on when. So I just don't want to touch them right now. I think that's what everyone's view. It's like NFTs will come back, but I don't want to touch them right now, and that's been the case for like so long.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to try to be a hero and call the NFT bottom because that's a dangerous game to play.
I think it's going to be hard because I think it's going to be like 2017 where some of the biggest projects in NFT are not going to come back. They're going to be like the Litecoins and the EOS of the last cycle. But you're going to have some new ones and then some of the old ones that are going to come back. It's just hard for me to imagine that, like you kind of mentioned, all these ETH people are hilariously rich from ETH and their alts. And, there's going to be some people that are going to be like, what if NFTs come back? Well, I want to get in early, so then they buy them, and then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Like all it takes is one pump, all it takes is one collection to go from 0.1 to like 38, and then we'll start the cycle again.
That's it. And everyone will rush to be.
Yeah, there needs to be one pump. There needs to be one pump.
All right. My last question for you: if you had a goal, say kind of like my 1 in a million goal. If you had a goal, you're doing a social experiment, or whatever, and somebody's like, "Hey, with one trade, you're going to make a 50x or higher this cycle." You had to bet, and this is just a thought experiment. Okay, it's not financial advice. Where would you go? You don't even have to say a specific coin. You could say like I'd do meme coins. I'd do NFTs at the bottom. I'd do DeFi, whatever. Where would you go to do a 50x or more this cycle just for fun?
That's hard. Yeah, I mean 50x is like crazy, right?
Yeah.
So I think you have to go to meme coins. I might just buy a basket of like meme coins, kind of what you said, like to be the mascot of each chain. So It's like Solana has, I guess, bonk and whiff, and that's mostly been solved. But like 50x is probably not happening. So maybe I would, go to DeFi Llama, look at like the top 20 chains, and just like buy the number one meme coin on each chain, that's like a basket, and just pray to the pump gods that I picked the right ones. That's probably what I'll do if I wanted like a 50x. The thing is, like, it's kind of hard, right? It's like, yeah, I mean, like this is not financial advice. Like, I'm not even doing this. I only own like 2 meme coins that, that probably I have no idea what's going to happen. But if you want like those crazy gains, you either just have to buy memes and get lucky, or like be really early to some trend, or just have a bunch of compounding gains. But yeah, like maybe a basket of meme coins, and then airdrop farm, and then like use new apps. Maybe like SocialFi, right? Like maybe being early to Lens Network will like pay a bunch.
Yeah, man.
No, like crypto rewards you for trying new things. So I was just trying new things and just hope for the best, honestly.
Yeah, that's a great place to end. Crypto rewards you for trying new things. If you're early to the airdrop meta and you went all in, you spread across multiple wallets, you didn't even do anything complicated. You could have made literally like 7 figures from airdrop farming with not that much money. If you were early to NFTs last cycle and you just got in, you didn't need a lot of capital, you could have made a fortune. If you were early to DeFi, if you're early to crypto as a whole. And this cycle, there's going to be things that if you're early to, you have the opportunity trying those new things to potentially make, a decent bag if it ends up working out. So awesome. As always, none of this was investment advice. None of this was us telling you to buy any of these things. If I mentioned a token, if I talked about a token at all, like assume that I own it, and everyone that I can think of that I talked about this in this episode, I definitely am pretty sure I own. I can't think of a single
Research coin?
Research coin for sure. I own. I forget the other ones I mentioned. But anyway, yeah, I definitely talk my own bags all the time. Of course I would, because if that's what I'm most interested in, would be the thing. If I'm interested in it, I'm probably going to buy it. If I'm bullish on it, I'm probably going to invest into it. Otherwise, I don't make any sense, even with myself. But none of this investment advice, like genuinely, just because I'm buying something, I buy things and they go down sometimes. I have losses. I don't expect to win every hand when I'm playing poker. Even a great starting hand can lose, and you really do need to know what you're doing and do your own research if you want to ultimately succeed at the game that is crypto. Awesome. It has been great having you on this, and good luck with your Charles Hoskins episode.
Hopefully he shows up. But anyways, yeah, thanks for having me.